thank you. And hello, and welcome to this evening's Empower Hour. We have a jam-packed agenda given that 11 candidates are running for the Boulder City Council. So I'm going to get right into some of the initial business that we need to take care of. And now I will do the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge with respect as non-native people that the land on which we stand, live, and learn is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. Let us seek to understand what it means to be in right relationship today with the traditional stewards of this land and with this land itself and with all the creatures that inhabit it. And now I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Chris Hoffman. Thank you, Chris, and again to all of the candidates for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Mary. And again, on behalf of Empower Future and all of you who are watching online, I would like to welcome our candidates for City Council. We thank them for participating and for their interest in serving the community by being on City Council. We know there have already been a number of candidate forums, and tonight's focus is on climate and energy. We've solicited climate and energy related questions from the community and from our affiliated organizations, and we have received a lot of questions. In the interest of time and to avoid duplication, we have been able to consolidate most of these questions into 4 questions, and we're sorry that we will not be able to take additional questions live during the session. And to promote thoughtful discussion, thoughtful presentations and discussion, we have given the questions to the candidates in advance. Here's the process. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and candidates, please unmute yourself when it's your turn to speak. Then I will ask a question and call on the candidates one at a time to answer it. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. Again, please unmute yourself to speak. After the first round, I will move on to the next question and start the answers with a different candidate. We've randomized the order of the answering, so each candidate will be able to go either first or last on a topic. We have a timer for the speakers on one of the visible screens. The timer bar will change color when 30 seconds remain and will sound some bells when it is time to stop. Because we have such a big field of candidates, we ask all of them to be conscientious about sticking to the time allowed. And in fairness to all, we reserve the right to mute speakers who go over time, although I don't think anybody will. We've received a number of questions from the community about equity and environmental justice, and we didn't see these questions as fitting into any single policy area because climate change disproportionately affects low-income and frontline communities in all policy areas. So we encourage candidates to discuss environmental equity in any of their responses when they deem it relevant and appropriate. Now I'd like to give the candidates 2 minutes each to introduce themselves, and we'll start with Matt Benjamin.
Thanks, Chris, and I appreciate everyone at Empower Our Future for hosting this forum, and thanks candidates for joining. Again, my name is Matt Benjamin. It's been my genuine honor to serve you on Boulder City Council for the last 4 years. You know, it's been a wild ride over the last 4 years. When we came out of COVID, we had 700 people furloughed. We didn't know if the pandemic was going to last 6 weeks or 6 months. And I think we've made tremendous strides to solidify a lot of aspects of our community and give people a strong foundation. But we have a lot of work to do. I'm going to be focusing really on leadership that centers on durable, lasting change. And I think I've proven that in my 4 years on council. My 3 priorities are going to be centered on supporting middle-income housing, our economic vitality strategy, and wildfire resilience. And all of this centers on a lot of the work that this organization supports as well. You know, when you think about what middle-income housing about, right, these are school enrollment for our kids. And this is to help us not be dependent on students having to come from faraway places, driving their cars, and harming our air quality. I mean, there's students at my children's elementary school that come from Brighton or Arvada or even farther away. So by enhancing middle income housing, we can have the families that live, work, and play here to support the schools and enrollment that we have, which is great for our climate. And certainly with economic our vitality strategy, it's the engine that drives us. And without increasing our revenues in a strong business sector and a strong economy that works for everyone, we will struggle to generate the revenues that allow us to reinvest that in our city. So thinking about our energy policies, how we conserve water, conserve energy, and looking at those assets and those pilot programs, it's necessary that we have a strong, thriving economy for that. And wildfire protection really defines itself. We have to protect ourselves from this preeminent risk of climate change in our community. So at the end of the day, if you want to join me in continuing to push for progress in our community, please vote for me on November 4th. Thank you.
Great. Unneeded bell. Thank you very much, Matt. Next up is Jenny Robbins.
Hello, and thank you all for having me tonight. Chris, it's good to see you again. My name is Jenny Robbins. I am chair of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I am a Play Boulder Foundation board member. I co-chair the Boulder Chamber Community Affairs Council, and I am a mentor through the CU Leadership Program. And as most of you know from 23, I have a couple of Girl Scout troops that I take through every climate and environmental process that we can and through all of our labs here in Boulder. With that in mind, I'm a lifelong community activist. I've supported many, and I still support many local nonprofits like EFA, Boulder Humane Society, Precious Child. I'm a working mom, raising two teenage daughters here in Boulder. I'm in Gun Barrel. I bring a little regional diversity if elected to council, which I think is needed. I have 25 years in the telecommunications and commercial production field. In addition, I own a small business here in Boulder. I am running for city council to ensure that policy reflects the needs of all. I think we have to do a better job at taking care of our basic needs, our roads, safety, infrastructure. We need to help our business community thrive, and we need to find more opportunities for wildfire mitigation and better ways to reach our climate goals. Boulder, in my opinion, is at a crossroads. I'm a hyper-local candidate that offers leadership grounded in balance, compassion, accessibility, pragmatism, and results. I believe we need a change, and I would like to be the one to bring balance back to the Boulder City Council. So thank you all again for having me tonight, and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you, Jenny. Next up is Mark Wallach.
Good evening, and thank you for this forum. We've gone through many of them, but this one is as important as any. I was a bit of a reluctant candidate this year. I've been on council for 2 terms, and I had not initially planned to run again. The things that changed my mind were first our economic difficulties, which we are dealing with currently, and I wanted to be part of that conversation. And secondly, my concern with the possible damage that can be done to this community by policies emanating out of Washington. That is fairly serious business, and we can't yet predict exactly what things are going to occur, but we can be greatly harmed by some of those policies, and I wanted to be part of that conversation as well. If I'm reelected, I have 3 current priorities, which is not to say anything not mentioned is not important. All of our issues are important, but these are 3 that I want to focus on. The first is public safety. The conditions that we have on the mall and on the Boulder Creek path are really not acceptable. And public safety is a core element of what any government should provide its citizens. So that's something I care deeply about, and we need to do better. The second is infrastructure, a very boring topic for most people, but not to me. We have $300 million of unfunded infrastructure needs, and I want us to begin to address that backlog. And that encompasses our 2 firehouses that are operating out of single-family residences. It includes our rec centers, which need repair. The South Boulder Rec Center is actually beyond its useful life. We have roads, bridges, etc. We need to begin to deal with that backlog. Strong. All right. The last one was wildfire resilience, and you can imagine what my position is on that. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Next up is Nicole Spear.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Spear. I'm a scientist, union member, mom, and a current Boulder City Council member. I'm really grateful to be here tonight with so many neighbors, colleagues, and community members who care about our city, our planet, and our connection to each other. And thank you, Empower Our Future, for letting us crash your Empower Hour tonight. I come to this work with a focus on sustainability, equity, and resilience. I believe public service is about stewardship, which we accomplish by making evidence-based decisions that reflect our shared values and strengthen the systems that we all rely on. Over the past 4 years, that approach has helped deliver climate progress for our city. Our region secured a $200 million EPA climate grant to support energy savings and emissions reductions, which I was glad to support in my role as Boulder's representative to the Denver Regional Council of Governments. I'm now on the committee that's overseeing this work and its implementation. We've also made significant local progress by extending funding for local climate resilience projects through the 2023 climate tax. Thank you to everybody who voted for that. By requiring all new residential and commercial buildings in Boulder to be gas-free, by cutting our greenhouse gas emissions by 24% since 2018 and reaching our goal of 100 megawatts of local energy generation 7 years ahead of schedule. I'm running for re-election this year to protect the progress that we've made and to keep working toward a more resilient, inclusive community. Especially as federal funding and political pressures shift, we'll need to defend our climate wins and continue to push for durable, community-centered, equitable climate action. It's been an honor to serve you all for the past 4 years, and I'm ready to take on a few more years of service to help ensure that our policies and decisions continue to reflect the values that we share and the future that we deserve. I welcome your partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Lauren Folkerts.
Thank you so much for inviting us here tonight and for helping educate our community both about sustainability and our upcoming election. I'm Lauren Folkerts. I'm an architect, a community gardener, a dog mom, and Boulder's current mayor pro tem. I've spent over 15 years designing housing here in Boulder, from affordable housing for BHP to ADUs and gentle infill. This experience has really shown me how our local policies shape who gets to live here and what kind of community we become. Over the past 4 years on council, I've worked to make Boulder more affordable, more sustainable, and more fair. I led the effort to raise Boulder's minimum wage so people can better afford to live in our community. I pushed to update our energy code to include a nation-leading embodied carbon code to improve sustainability in our building practices, and I've reformed land use rules to make it easier to build homes for working families instead of luxury condos. What drives me and why I'm running for re-election is really to continue focusing on affordability. Housing, I believe, is the foundation to this and the answer to so many of our problems, whether it's climate action, economic stability, and even mental health. When people can't afford to live where they work, we lose our diversity, our workforce, and the heart of our community as people are pushed into long commutes. I believe Boulder can be both environmentally responsible and economically inclusive. And so I will push to make sure that it remains a place where everyone who contributes to our community can afford to call Boulder home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Rob Kaplan.
Hi, and also thank you for having us. My name is Rob Kaplan. I moved here in 1993, 33 years ago. I started a small business called Pro Peloton Bike Shop. I've done commercial real estate, and I never thought I would have the chance to say this, but in one of my properties, I converted all of my lights to LED, speaking of climate. I was playing drums up in Jamestown in 2002, and the Overland fire happened, and that's what prompted me to ask one of my clients at the bike shop how to volunteer and be a wildland firefighter. I did that, and a year later they had a hiring, and I went through it, and I got the job, and 18 years later I retired as a fire captain. During that time, I've done some multi-jurisdictional response plans. I've worked with the city, the county, and multiple fire districts, and including the state. I have a son, 20 years old, Nico, who goes to CU. My priorities, as you might guess, are wildfire preparedness and all of the ecology that goes around that in our surrounding open space and the county space, all the way up to the watersheds. Safety in public spaces, the creek path. We have some big visitor counts coming in, and I would love to see it safe for our community, our residents, and those visitors. And then, of course, our downtown vitality, our economic vitality across the city, our budget, taking care of what we currently have, including our rec centers. And I always forget to say this, but I am also on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. So good governance and good budgeting and just pragmatic cooperation with all my fellow council people if I'm lucky enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Rachel Rose Isaacson.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So my name is Rachel Rose Isaacson. I believe I'm the youngest candidate in the race, but my civic journey was started pretty early. I started doing volunteering and organizing at 14, and by 17, I was drafting state legislation to protect LGBTQ youth in the state of Ohio. And this passion for public service led me to get a bachelor's in political economics, and I also earned a master's in public administration and leadership. So, in a time that we are in a budget deficit, I want to make myself available because I have trained expertise in public budgeting, fiscal and policy analysis, and strategic resource management. And I think that these skills are essential for making responsible and transparent decisions on city council. And so before I moved to Boulder, I was working as a regenerative educator, and I was organizing internationally attended conferences that empowered communities on how to cultivate resilience in the face of economic, social, and environmental turbulence. And here in Boulder, I stay rooted in local life, whether it's advocating as an ecological stewardship, as a pollinator ambassador with Cool Boulder. And I'm also a barista at Southside Wanna Cafe, and I'm available for anyone who wants to come in for a latte and chat politics. Running to be Boulder's first Gen Z city council member, not just to make sure that my generation has a voice at the table, but also to bring some informed systems level thinking and collaborative leadership to the table and help us face the challenges that we're facing. My top three priorities are going to be climate resiliency, affordable housing for all stages of life, and localization and community empowerment. In terms of climate resiliency, I think that Boulder must lead on climate resilience in ways that meet both ecological goals and real community needs. We're making a lot of effort to integrate regenerative city planning, and I want to make sure that this stays a key priority for us and do it in a way that ensures that we are first providing resiliency support to those most negatively impacted in our community. We need leadership that can make a true effort to carry out these plans in a way that makes effective use of our resources with clear goals and measurable outcomes, and allocates opportunities into the community at large to participate in getting these plans accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We did invite Maxwell Lord, but he's not here tonight. So we'll move on to Aaron Stone.
Hi, thanks, Chris. My name's Aaron Stone. I'm a computer engineer. I grew up in Ohio, and I came out here in 2012 with my family. I have two children in Boulder Valley School District. One of my early careers was actually automated meter reading in electric and gas. And since that time, the technology's come quite a long way. And I think we have a great opportunity now to take advantage of the latest technology in order to harness our environmental goals. I got involved with running for city council because I've seen many issues going on in the city. I don't believe, for one, that we're meeting our climate goals. We're expanding out of control. We're also seeing homeless issues out on our mall, which even though there's a perceived sense of safety there, we don't have an equitable way of dealing with what's going on down there. So we have some proposals to deal with that as well. We're also seeing that commercial businesses, their cost of doing business is way too high. So we want to concentrate on lowering the barriers to get into business, as well as the cost of doing business. And there was a fourth one too, but sorry. We are also looking at some of our investments because we want to make sure that those investments are not directly involved in repressing people around the world. So those four issues are why I got involved. And I'd like to thank you for your time, and please consider me for City Council.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We had also invited Robert Smoke. We understand he unfortunately had some kind of accident on a ladder today. He's apparently okay, but not up to appearing on a forum. So we wish him.
That was Max, Chris. That was Max.
That was Max. Oh, so is Rob Smoke is okay. So Max, thank you. So Rob Smoke is not here. We continue with Montserrat Palacios.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Chris and Empower Hour for having us. I am Montserrat Palacios, and I've always been a part of the community where I've lived. I've always been an advocate for the Latino community and for those whose voices aren't always heard. I love Boulder, and I have made Boulder my home. I've lived on the East Coast, the West Coast, and in Spain, but Boulder is where I want to be for the next 7 decades, if I'm lucky. And building a better city for future generations is my goal. My priorities are tackling the unhoused, housing and affordability, specifically middle income housing, and safety, which blends together in with the unhoused. Our city council brings together 9 people with diverse experiences, and I really believe we're strongest when we collaborate. I'm a very practical person who values listening, problem solving, and working with our community. I just want to help Boulder thrive. I would be honored to have your vote as you're filling in your mail ballots, or if you're like me and love to vote in person on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to say we are so fortunate in Boulder to have such a talented and qualified pool of candidates to choose among. So now we'll go to the questions, and the candidates have received these in advance. Each candidate will have a minute to answer the question. And again, we've randomized the order, so each candidate, again, is going to have at least one chance to go first or last. The first question has to do with water. Due to climate change, our water supply is in jeopardy. A portion of Boulder's water comes from the Colorado River. A recent report, There's No Water Available, from the Great Basin Water Network and its partners says, quote, all parties currently using water must commit to using less water than they have in the past. And according to a column in the Daily Camera last August by Steve Pomerantz, quote, the city staff's forecast is that a significantly hotter, drier future, we could lose nearly a third of our supply of water. How would you plan to pay to how would you plan and pay how would you plan for and pay for an adequate supply of water given the projected decline in supply exacerbated by Boulder's and CU's projected growth? And the first person up is Jenny Robbins.
Thank you, Chris. I believe that water security is one of Boulder's biggest long-term challenges. I had a forum recently with about 40 eighth graders at Friend School, and their very first questions were all about our water and how we can protect it and make sure that we have it. So even the children know that this is an issue in where we live. In my opinion, we're already seeing the impacts of a hotter and a drier climate with more erratic snowmelt, and we can't assume that our allocations will meet future demand. I think that we should start by tightening conservation goals citywide, which I hear is going to potentially be a thing with nighttime watering, and also expanding our reuse and gray water programs. In general, I think overall our growth has to align with our actual water capacity. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm an infrastructure candidate. So with that in mind, I think that we need to invest in more modern infrastructure and focus on our regional partnerships to make sure that we're prioritizing water and water infrastructure in the capital budget.
Great, thank you very much, and thanks for being prompt on the time. I know it's a complex issue, and we've got a lot of ground to cover in thinking about it. Next up on this water question, water security, is Nicole Spear.
Thanks for the question. We do have a strong foundation through our long-term planning and the diversified supply that we have, but we obviously can't assume stability with how rapidly our climate's changing. We need to keep embedding water conservation and efficiency into how we grow and deepening regional collaboration across our watersheds. We often lead our state on climate issues, and we can do the same for water by continuing to advocate for resource-efficient compact development and land use. We need to resist the instinct to say we're full, which often leads to sprawl that pits communities against each other when we need to be working together now more than ever. We should plan wisely and collaborate regionally so that we're prepared, our resources and systems are prepared to sustain all of us. As far as how we pay for it, if we can't eliminate TABOR, we have to weaken it. And I hope you'll all consider supporting the statewide effort to get a graduated income tax on our 2026 ballot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Mark Wallach.
Thank you. This is a critical issue for us. We are going to be having less water, both from the 7-state agreement and from increasing temperatures from climate change. And I don't think we have the financial capacity to simply buy our way out of this. So there are two things we need to do. One, and we never like to talk about it, the greatest user of water is our agricultural sector. And we are going to have to finally look at ways to make that sector more efficient. And second, we need to begin to plan for water usage as we plan our growth. We don't do that today, but we need to know when we add 1,000 units to our city that we'll have the supplies of water necessary to do that. When you're only adding a project of 30 or 40 units, we never look at that. We're going to have to look at that going forward and find ways to get that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Matt Benjamin.
Thanks for the question. I'm going to echo where Mark and Nicole went on this. I mean, I'll just be quick. I mean, eliminating TABOR is going to be the best way for us to generate the revenues that we need across the state to invest in the infrastructure and, more importantly, to make the defense around the Western Water Compact, right? At the end of next summer, that's when everything kind of comes to a screeching halt with regards to how we negotiate a new compact. And being on the upper river and at the headwaters of the Colorado, we have to protect our communities is really as best as we can. We get a lot of our water from the headwaters of the Colorado, so that's really critically important. And Mark's right about irrigation. We need to be lining our ditches, thinking about pivots, other more efficient ways to deliver water instead of flood irrigation. So these are things that we need to sort of encode. I'll just say that on Thursday, we'll be talking about banning the irrigation of water in residential in areas during the day. And that's a smart thing. That's when the most evaporation occurs. So watering at night or early morning is the best time. So we need to start changing habits so that we can conserve the water we have and put ourselves in a best position going forward.
Thank you. Next is Lauren Folkerts.
Thank you. I'm going to agree with my current colleagues. Boulder's water supply, while more resilient than most Front Range cities, it's still important with climate change that we have to stay proactive. Our city modeling shows that even with growth and climate change, we can meet demand if we strengthen our conservation and maintain our systems. So starting off, we need to use less. And one of the best ways we can do that is by improving outdoor efficiency, not waiting for drought, but looking at water budgets, leak detection, weather-based irrigation, low water landscaping, gray water reuse, some of these things which will be discussed in our meeting on Thursday. But we also have to protect and firm up our existing sources, keeping the Tasso and Boulder reservoir and treatment plants reliable, investing in watershed health, forest restoration, and coordinating with our ditch partners to safeguard both yield and water quality. We have to act early in dry years to use clear drought triggers that prioritize health and stream flows. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Rob Kaplan.
Well, I could echo a lot of things that have been said for sure. Water restrictions would help, and I know there's an ordinance coming out for nighttime watering. Obviously, low water plants for landscaping, taking into consideration anything that we do build above and beyond what we have now, those infrastructure demands on water, and of course, our water treatment plant maintenances. And then I'll also tie this into wildfire as well. because after wildfires, we have a lot of hillside erosion, sediment, debris that gets transported into water bodies. That's something that we can do in conjunction with protecting our city from natural disasters, which affects the water storage capacity loss, the quality. Our snow melt is, or I should say, our tree line is actually going higher. Our snow melt line is becoming lower. So protecting what we have now as far as the watershed would be a priority.
Great. Thank you. Next is Rachel Rose Isaacson.
Great. So without a doubt, water is one of Boulder's most urgent climate adaptation challenges. And we need not to act out of fear. We need to think about stewardship and resilience. And I think that a statistic worth noting is that nearly 40% of our municipal water bill and here in Boulder goes to watering grass. And that's a major opportunity for conservation, but it should also make us consider the housing types that we should have that should utilize less lawn space. And I think that we can also reduce demand through xeriscaping incentives, water efficient landscaping, gray use water reuse, and stronger conservation programs across homes, businesses, and CU. And I think that we also should integrate more native restoration into our parks, open spaces, and across the city, something I'd love to see as a regenerative educator who understands how powerful this strategy can be to help regional resiliency. And at the same time, we need to modernize our water infrastructure to reduce leaks, capture stormwater, expand reuse capacity. I think that Boulder should lead regionally, working with neighboring communities to ensure fair, sustainable, basin-wide agreements. I also agree that we need to overturn Tabor, or at least reform it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Aaron Stone.
Yes, I think that this issue goes directly to turning our back on Boulder's values. Boulder was founded on controlling our growth and being in harmony with the environment. And I would say our last several governments have turned their back on that by encouraging all of this high density luxury condos going in that are by definition going to use more water. We can't keep taking water from the Colorado River. It already doesn't go to the Pacific Ocean. Lake Mead and Lake Powell are already at historic lows. We need to control the water we have, and I would definitely look at recycling gray water and also to, encouraging the tier system as well. But I also want to talk about Tabor. We cannot take away Tabor. That is your ability to control how much tax you are paying, and you're giving the ability to be taxed more to your government. If you want that, then that's what you're going to get when Tabor goes away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Montserrat Palacios.
Pardon me, Chris.
Yes.
Excuse me. There's a little technical difficulty with the timer, and I'm hoping that Steve Whitaker is available to jump in to assist with just, I mean, everybody seems to be doing a great job of keeping their comments to about a minute, but Steve, are you able to do that?
Yes, I can do that.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you. Everybody's been doing a great job, and we apologize for the technical problem with our on-screen timer. So Montserrat Palacios, you're up with the water question.
Am I good to go, or we're
Yes,
still
you're
waiting
good to
on
go.
the, okay.
Yeah.
So Boulder's water future depends on local management, but also regional cooperation. The fact that 1/3 of our supply comes from the Colorado River and the remaining 2/3, are drawn directly from the Middle Boulder Creek and the North Boulder Creek allows us to have some independence, but with climate change and declining river flows across the West, it's not just a Boulder problem. This is a shared crisis affecting multiple states as well as Mexico. We need to prioritize using water more efficiently, as everyone said. And because the Colorado River allocations are governed by multi-state and international agreements, fairness and collaboration really need to be essential. Locally in Boulder and the county, we can make the greatest impact by improving conservation practices, modernizing infrastructure to reduce waste, and rethinking how we can use water intensive resources. And I think, like Mark said earlier, in the long term, we need to,
Yeah, finish your sentence, please. Go ahead.
I think in the long term, we need to reconsider, even limit high consumption activities such as large scale livestock and agriculture.
Thank you very much. Okay, and next question has to do with air, and there are two parts to this. The first part is fracking for oil and gas is the #1 source in Colorado of pollution contributing to the climate crisis and the ozone and smog in the air. Do you support phasing out new permits for fracking in Colorado by 2030? So a statewide issue on the air permits, on phasing out new permits for fracking. That's the first part of the question. The second is regarding the upcoming remediation of toxic coal ash at Xcel's Valmont Power Station. Do you believe air quality monitoring should occur during the remediation? And how are you prepared to work with Xcel and the state agencies to ensure that Boulder's air and water are protected? And the first person on this question is Nicole Spear.
Thank you. Short version is yes and yes. Clean air is essential to our health, our climate, and our safety. The state's very frustrating decision to pause new oil and gas legislation until 2028 certainly makes phasing out new permits by 2030 a little more difficult, but we can still act where we can in the meantime, which is why I'm so glad that you brought up the coal ash remediation project too. We should insist on air quality monitoring, especially given that the state recently denied Xcel's initial cleanup plan due to health and safety risks. Their remediation efforts must meet the highest standards of community protection. I'm committed to having us work with the state agencies and Xcel and advocating for transparency, for timely data, and for meaningful community engagement throughout. Air quality decisions affect all of us, and we deserve meaningful oversight, accountability, and a commitment from everyone involved to public well-being. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up on this question is Montserrat Palacios.
Yes, absolutely. I think, fracking is a major source of pollution and a significant contributor. And we should not be providing permits for fracking. And as for the monitoring air quality during remediation, yes, we need to protect Boulder's air and water and must be a top priority throughout the process. But at the same time, we need to stay focused on the ultimate goal, which is removing the coal ash and completing the remediation effectively. I think it's important that necessary monitoring and oversight don't become bogged down in red tape, that the process, the progress stalls, or that the project is just abandoned altogether. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Next up on this question is Mark Wallach.
I'm going to take a little bit of a different view. I think it's not as easy a question as, to me, as yes and yes. Fracking is a problem, but we talk about getting rid of Tabor. It's not going to matter if we get rid of Tabor if we are eliminating major sources of revenue that fund our state. So I would prefer to raise standards for how fracking wells are conducted and monitored and closed down before we take the draconian steps of saying we're not going to permit it at all. I'd like to create the proper conditions for permitting. As for the coal ash issue, that's an easy yes. There's no reason we can't have monitoring from day one and continue that monitoring through the process of remediation. So that one for me is easy. The other one is a difficult question, and I think it requires a little more conversation.
Thank you. Is that our timer jumping in? And
I think it's just celebrating my answer.
Thank you. Next up on this question on air is Matt Benjamin.
Appreciate the question. Yeah, I mean, I think the big challenge we have here is I haven't seen a real strong plan from the state on what to do with the workers in the next 5 years and how to actually shift that economically. I think the ban, obviously, we want to ban fracking, but unless we have a plan, I think that ban might not work for us, and we might have a lot of folks in our energy economy be out of jobs, and that will hurt ourselves, and we'll kind of shoot ourselves in the foot on that. So until I see a clear plan, I want that to happen, but I'm worried that that's going to be a little haphazard without a strong plan on what to do with that energy sector and how to move those jobs into other green energy jobs, but also how to transfer that stuff around. So I think that is a little bit worrisome in just 5 years. With regards to the coal ash, Obviously, CDPHE just rejected Excel's recent plan. And so I think that's a great step, and it shows that they're listening. And so I think ourselves, along with our partners with the county, need to continue to put pressure to have air monitoring and making sure those plans meet all of our environmental standards going forward. So I'm hopeful the process continues to work. We got to keep putting pressure on them.
Thank you very much. Next is Rob Kaplan.
Thank you. I agree that this is for fracking. It's a tough shutdown, but I also know what it does to our water. They have proprietary slurries that they pressurize into the shale, and it's devastating. And when it gets into the water supply, it goes without saying the human factors that happen. The coal ash, I was on the Boulder County hazmat team. I understand air monitoring, and yeah, of course I would push for continuous air monitoring for the different particle sizes, PM10, PM2.5 particles, metals, baselines, even before the work begins, and then doing it as the work begins. Public transparency, a dust control plan, water protections, independent third-party oversights, coordination with Excel, Colorado Department, EPA, Boulder County Health, all of these stakeholders in there. And then time's up, worker safety.
Thank you. Next is Rachel Rose Isaacson.
Thank you. So I support phasing out new fracking permits by 2030. I think that that's an awesome goal. Obviously, it's a pretty hefty goal to have. And I appreciate all of the nuances that other candidates are also bringing into the conversation. Given that this sector is the largest source of climate ozone pollution in the state, I think that our continued dependence on it undermines our climate goals and public health. I agree with Matt Benjamin that we need a just and responsible transition, one that invests in renewable energy jobs, workforce retraining, and community resilience while reducing fossil fuel extraction with a clear enforceable timeline. As for the Valmont Power Station, remediation must not come at the expense of public health. I strongly support independent real-time air quality monitoring throughout the coal ash cleanup, along with transparent data reporting to the public. Boulder should work closely with state and federal agencies and hold Excel accountable to ensure strict safety standards, protect downstream water quality, and prevent airborne contamination during the excavation and transport. Ultimately, thank you.
Mary, is there a way we could abandon the sound?
It's like a vaudeville act. I mean, we're just entertained.
Thank you. And for anyone, if the sound interrupts or Steve interrupts to say time, feel free to finish your sentence, whatever you're working on. Next on this is Aaron Stone.
Thanks, Chris. So the fracking, it pollutes our groundwater. So I'm going to say no to new permits on that. 2030 is a great goal to get rid of that. On the Valmont Power Station cleanup, this coal ash has chromium, lead, mercury, particles under 2.5 millimeters. And if you draw a line from where the station is all the way to Chautauqua, that's the bubble we're inside of. And so far, Excel is only committed to visual inspection. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. I myself am within about a mile of that, and I don't want to be breathing that in. So I'm going to demand that there is air testing going on at that station. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Jenny Robbins.
Hello again. Yes, I do support phasing out new fracking permits, but like Matt and Mark have mentioned, I think it'll be important to make sure that we have a plan in place for that. And at the very, very least, we have to be sure that if for some reason they're not phased out, it is highly, highly regulated to make sure that our air is protected. I think that this is a necessary step towards meeting our climate goals and improving air quality. If you pay attention to the EPA flag program, we already have very, very few green flag days here in Boulder, given our location. In regard to the Valmont Power cleanup, the coal ash, I definitely think that we have to make sure that making sure that our water and our air is protected during that cleanup. It must be mandatory. Air and water quality monitoring must be mandatory throughout the entire remediation.
Thank you. And next is on this question is Lauren Folkerts.
Thank you so much for this one. We are one of the only states where our adoption of EVs have had minimal impact on our air quality, and that's because of fracking. Stopping new permits is a really important first step to ending fracking, and it's critical for our health and the health of our planet, and it's something that I'm deeply supportive of. It's also imperative that we get Excel to monitor air quality during remediation. I would work closely with state agencies and local environmental groups to ensure we get continuous air and dust monitoring, transparent public reporting, and a clear response plan if thresholds are exceeded. Our community deserves to breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Thank you. And the next question now has to do with electricity. Electricity is fundamental to everything that happens in the city of Boulder, and our current provider is spending billions of dollars largely to build out and patch up the old 20th century model of centralized generation, rather than spending at least some of that money on a 21st century system. We know that local solar and storage, as well as microgrids, can help us avoid a lot of the problems that stem from the vulnerability of the distribution system to extreme weather events and the fire risk associated with downed power lines. What results would you like Excel to achieve in the next few years that would make you enthusiastic about the city staying in its franchise with Excel? First up is Mart Warlock.
Well, I'll tell you, I would first like to see XL meet the goals that they committed to in our current franchise agreement. That they have missed every goal so far, and it would be nice if they would, in fact, meet some of those standards. That would really enhance their desirability as a partner in energy generation. In addition, I would like to see them conduct an enhanced program of undergrounding power lines. That has been the source of down power lines have been the source of many fires, and it's time that we got some of that stuff done. I know we're doing it up in Chautauqua. We need to do much more of it in many different areas of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up on this question about electricity is Aaron Stone.
Thank you. Honestly, I don't think Excel is attractive right now. We have a private utility that's got rising profits, and they're relatively generating about the same amount of electricity that they've been generating for the last 20 years. In addition, they've been a bad steward of the environment. For example, I've got a personal experience where I had a heat pump installed earlier this year, and they violated their own terms of agreement, and they actually stole about 2/3 of that rebate from me, and even threatened my contractor to take him off the program. So we're not seeing accountability from Excel. We should look at public options and take an off ramp. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on this question is Jenny Robbins.
Thank you. I think Excel needs to show real measurable progress towards continued carbon reduction goals and undergrounding. And we also need a modern climate resistant grid. We need faster build out of local solar, battery storage, microgrids, and especially for critical facilities like fire stations and community centers. We've all seen what can happen when Excel just shuts it down on a windy day. It can be catastrophic. I would like to see Boulder households and small businesses also able to generate and store their own power more easily. If Excel can deliver on local generation and their undergrounding commitments and true transparency around outages and fire risk mitigation, that would make me a little bit more confident in staying in the current franchise agreement that we have. But again, they have to at first just meet their goals. And in order for me to stay confident, they would need to exceed those goals as well.
Thank you. Next on this question is Nicole Spear.
Thank you. I would be enthusiastic about staying in the franchise if Excel were to commit to measurable progress on reliable distributed energy. That includes the things you mentioned, like local solar storage, microgrid development, and I would like to see this focused especially in our more socially vulnerable neighborhoods and those most vulnerable to outages, our new reality of PSPSs, and climate impacts. I also think there's a deeper structural challenge that we need to fix at the state level, which is the incentives that make it so that utilities are not economically driven to electrify in ways that reduce end costs and increase reliability. We should be rewarding investors for outcomes that serve the public good. To me, that's more fundamental to unlocking opportunity than any single city's relationship with its provider. Right now, council is working on a communication to Excel about the franchise off-ramp, and I hope that we can use this as an opportunity to shape a grid that's cleaner, cheaper, and more resilient. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Montserrat Palacios.
Thank you. I believe as of late 2024, renewables made up about 43% of Colorado's in-state generation. So I think it is clearly in Excel's best interest to continue investing in transforming towards renewable energy. I think Excel's Colorado Clean Energy Plan, which aims to double renewable energy by 2030, is a critical step forward, and I'm confident that Excel will follow through on these commitments. And I think that City Council can work closely together with them to ensure that they stay on track to build a cleaner, more resilient, and future-ready energy system that benefits both residents and the environments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lauren Folkerts.
Thank you. So Excel has really failed to live up to its commitments. They've missed key targets, they're moving too slowly on local projects, and they're failing to act like a true partner. Combine that with the failure of communications we saw during the safety power shutdown, and it will be really difficult for them to earn back our community's trust. In my own neighborhood, we were supposed to be part of a pilot heat pump program. But Excel has dragged its feet, and now we're really worried that the tax credits are going to expire before we can participate. Boulder deserves a utility that is responsive, transparent, and innovative, not one clinging to an outdated system while costs and climate risks grow. To gain trust, Excel must decarbonize faster, underground lines to cut wildfire risk, modernize the grid for local energy, and act as a true partner with our community. If Excel can't deliver on that, then Boulder has little choice left but to look for ways to take our energy future into our own hands.
Thank you. Next is Matt Benjamin.
Thanks for the question. You know, one of the things that has sort of befuddled me quite a bit with Excel is the inability to move rapidly with bidirectional charging. We talked earlier about having so many EVs per capita. I mean, when you look at that, having a 100 kilowatt hour battery that you could use bidirectional charging from, you could have power that lasts your home for a day or a week, for days and weeks. So this is easy stuff. The tech exists, and Boulder is an exemplary place to be a pilot for this work. So Excel has struggled to really find the communities that can be its best partners. But that being said, I think the biggest challenge that I will measure success on is how they handle wildfire. It's easy, it's measurable, it's transformation, it's transition lines, it's undergrounding, and it's making sure that critical infrastructure has more than one access point of power. This is easily measured, and so I think we have to hold their feet to the fire to the things that they can directly to control and make sure that we see that accountability. So the rest of the power stuff, a lot of that, some of that is in their control, some of it is hard for them to control, but it's really critical we stick to the wildfire stuff because that's right in front of us.
Thank you. Next on this is Rachel Rose Isaacson.
Thank you. So I think that we obviously need to be paying close attention to this partnership or lack thereof. Electricity is currently the backbone of our community, from homes and hospitals and public safety and climate resilience. When they shut off when they shut off the power, it also interrupted our businesses. I lost income for a full day when they did that, and that really impacted me and my fellow community members relying on them. We need a 21st century energy system rooted in local resilience, renewables, and community ownership. I agree with a lot of what's been said. I would like to see a significant expansion of local solar and battery storage, microgrids for critical facilities like fire stations, schools, and community hubs. We need transparent investment data, knowing exactly what they're doing to reduce emissions and building resilience, not just maintaining outdated infrastructure. And we need better innovations. We're Boulder. We want to be innovative. We want our energy providers
Time.
to allow us to be flexible in how we distribute energy. Thank you.
Thank you. And next on this is Rob Kaplan.
I'm gonna try to get through this in 1 minute. Of course, wildfire, burying the power lines, using the franchise's undergrounding fund up to 1% of Excel's Boulder revenues, plus wildland mitigation dollars for underground priority feeders each year in and around the WUI. We're starting with Chautauqua, which is underway now. Publish it mile by mile and schedule it. The other, microgrids as well for resiliency. It's not just power outages, but unfortunately, we're in a era of cyber attacks as well. So I think that resiliency is worth having. The other thing is the maps for the feeders and the lateral boundaries. So when people do want to upgrade to solar, they know if they can do it before Excel comes out and tells them that it's going to be 3 months, 6 months. It'll help homeowners decide if the rooftop solar or a battery will face long interconnections and generators in the size. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and our last question has to do with resilience and electricity. A resilience hub is a community serving facility that is enhanced with solar power plus battery storage to support residents and other services and offer services and resources on a daily basis, as well as before, during, and after climate disasters and other emergencies. It is most effective when it's located in underserved communities that have high climate vulnerability so as to enhance emergency preparedness and energy security. The Climate Initiative's budget for 2026 is $9.6 million, supporting 22 FTE staff. Would you support taking a close look at the Climate Initiative's budget and ensuring that a good percentage is invested in pilot programs for resilience hubs that will support the city's equity and emergency preparedness goals? And the first person on the list to answer that is Aaron Stone.
Thank you. I believe that resilience hubs are a great idea. And we eventually could roll them out to every structure, but we start with our major structures like our rec centers, churches, fire stations, police stations first. There's a major inefficiency by converting from DC to AC and then putting on the grid and then bringing AC in from the grid and then charging your battery with DC. Those rules have intentionally been put in place so that Excel can keep its monopoly going. We need to change the permitting rules so that all of that can happen direct DC to charge your battery, and then you get to choose where and which priority devices within your house get powered when the Excel grid goes down, as well as if you want to sell that back to the Excel grid. So yes, I would take a look at adding that to the climate incentives budget. It's a great way to start. Thank you.
Thank you. And next on this is Lauren Folkerts.
Thank you. I believe that resilience hubs are an important part of protecting our most vulnerable community members as we face more frequent fires, heat waves, and power shutoffs. These facilities can provide safe shelter, reliable power, and access to information when people need it most. I appreciate that Boulder has already taken some early smart steps in this direction. Our recreation center's ability to operate using electric bus batteries for backup power is an innovative example of local problem solving and cross-departmental coordination. It shows that when we're thinking creatively about how to make community facilities more resilient during emergencies. Given the climate initiative's budget and the range of critical work it supports, I would need to better understand the trade-offs and opportunities required for such a pilot. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Montserrat Palacios.
Yes, I would support taking a closer look at the climate initiatives budget to ensure that a portion is invested in well-designed pilot programs. But it also makes sense to spend money on focus and it makes sense to spend money on focused pilot programs. But also I think that these programs should have dual uses. I think not just to serve as emergency centers, but also to enhance community spaces like schools and our recreation centers in the day-to-day life by designing them with both regular community benefits and emergency preparedness in mind. I think that we can make the most of our investment while advancing Boulder's equity and resilience goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Rob Kaplan.
Thanks. Yes, I also support that. I think that it would be a great resource for us in natural disasters. And when power goes out, we have some opportunities with some of our infrastructure that needs to be either rebuilt or a lot of maintenance, and that could be an opportune time to do that. The quick research that I did on this is the estimated subtotal per site would be about $1 million to $2.5 million per site. But what that could do is it could have HEPA air filters for if we have a wildfire for people that have asthma or other conditions, a safe haven for them, and put it in a place where you're also going to have some amenities for people to either sleep, eat, or just a large area for their safety. I think it's critical, and I think redundancy is critical in our power grid.
Thank you. Next on this is Mark Wallach.
You know, as a member of council, I take a close look at every department's budget and look to more effectively allocate their resources. I share Lauren's concern that we need to know more before we start stripping funds from the climate initiatives budget for this project. However, we do have a community culture, resilience, and safety tax that provides funds for infrastructure projects, and this is infrastructure. So I would look first to them or to that source of funding before I start stripping out money for other worthy activities of the climate initiatives program. So that's where I would look for money, and I think we can find it. And I think we can actually initiate a program for these resilience centers that would be proportionate to the need and get things done fairly quickly. But I do not strip money from departments until I see what the cost benefit analysis is. I think Lauren's right on that.
Great. Thank you very much. Next is Matt Benjamin.
Appreciate the question. You know, we don't have to sort of say, let's take a closer look. You can actually take a closer look at open.gov and see dollar for dollar exactly where climate initiatives work goes. And at $9.6 million, it's down over $1.5 million from last year just by the nature of our sales tax reduction. So those cuts have already trimmed some very important programs. So I share Mark and Lauren's concerns that we're already in a shoestring budget focused on the most critical programs that department funds. And I wouldn't want to transfer anything over until one, we've solidified better funding for that department or more clearly understand some of those trade-offs. A good example is $680,000 is going towards our manufactured home community to make sure that they too are participating in the energy upgrades so that those disproportionately impacted communities aren't left behind. So we don't want to see those programs get cut. So we have to be very mindful about the trade-offs. The concept as a whole, I think, is a good one, but we have to find the right economic environment in order to support that work so that it has viability going forward.
Great. Thank you. Next is Jenny Robbins.
Thank you. Yes, I would absolutely support specifically reviewing the climate initiative budget to ensure more direct investments to resilience hubs. With nearly $10 million in that budget, I think that we should be allocating a more meaningful portion to pilot projects, especially in neighborhoods that have the greatest climate vulnerabilities. The hubs, you know, they make climate action tangible, they keep people safe, empowered, and connected when disaster hits. In my opinion, we could partner with schools, rec centers, and other nonprofits to add solar storage and backup systems. For a living, I am in site acquisition, so I'm very familiar with how this would work and how quickly we could get it done and at what cost we could also get that done for. And I think that that's how we connect equity, climate, and preparedness.
Thank you. Next is Nicole Spear.
Thank you. So I agree with my colleagues. Resilience hubs are a very promising strategy for advancing equity and emergency preparedness, especially in our more socially vulnerable neighborhoods. I'd like us to see how we could consider further resourcing them, whether through city funds or maybe external partnerships. But like Lauren, Mark, and Matt, I wouldn't support earmarking a specific percentage of the 2026 budget to this concept. Our budget for next year is already balanced and outcome-based. It's grounded in our sustainability, equity, and resilience framework, and it was built through 9 months of cross-departmental work to align resources with our interconnected goals. Every single dollar in our budget is already doing multiple jobs, advancing climate resilience, supporting our infrastructure, coordinating across our many systems. Before shifting allocations, we need a strategic assessment of where these resilience hubs can fit in within that broader framework. I recently compared our 2026 budget to a Jenga tower. We don't have many more pieces we can reposition without risking a lot of damage. Thank you.
Thank you. And last on this question is Rachel Rose Isaacson.
Thank you. I personally am pretty sad that we already don't have these resiliency hubs in the case of emergencies. I just think in general, we just need to have more for our emergency preparedness as a whole. I think that this idea is really important to me. I would feel more comforted personally in our community if we had such things. And I understand that there's a lot of logistics, especially with the budget. And again, I think that comes back down to ways that we can have leadership to try and reform Tabor so that we're better resourced. We need things like this. This helps distribute resources in power outages and provide cooling and charging centers and heat waves. And this is offering a trusted space for people year round so that they don't have to live in fear of when or if something happens, where they can go. So we need to be working on this as a community as a whole, and I would love to see this happen.
Thank you. And thank you all for your well thought out and considered answers and for being here tonight. Those are the questions we have, and I'll pass it back over to Mary to wrap up. Just mentioning that this has been recorded and it should be up on our website so other people can watch it after this. And we usually get at least twice as many viewers because of the recordings. Mary, please.
Great. Well, very interesting. We're under the time limit, kind of amazingly. I kind of wish we'd been able to give you guys more time, but alas. Thank you so much for adhering to our time limits and answering the questions. We really appreciate you being here. And thank you, Chris and Steve. I also want to just make sure to thank all of the other Empower Our Future communication team members who are integral to making these Empower Hours happen. They are Paul Cullen, Chris Hoffman, Steve Whitaker, and Julie Zonizer. As Chris mentioned, later this week, this video will join all of the other recordings of past Empower Hours that are on our website at empowerourfuture.org/events. And again, really hope to see people in November on the 11th for our Empower Hour with Brian Hannigan. He'll be talking about the amazing progress that Holy Cross Energy has made in the last 5 years since we spoke to him in January 2021. Thank you again, and good luck to the candidates in the next couple of weeks. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.